Well, welcome to another episode of Project Carhaven, where today we're working on the 1971 TA22 Celica. Previously, we've repaired all the suspension, replaced the springs and shocks, done some engine work, replaced the carb, flushed the cooling system, put in a fuel cell, and today we're up to the point where we need to start doing work on the body. So the main thing to do is sand all this primer to get it nice and smooth in preparation for base coat. But in order to distract myself, because I really don't like bodywork, I've got things like trim pieces to sort out, like polishing all the chrome. I've got sail panels to sort out. I've got the rear garnish, the taillight surrounds, attempt to restore the taillight lenses. So I think in order to keep myself sane, I might do some of those things first before I get onto this. So everything on the back end is very chrome, and a lot of this is failing. So my plan is use a Dremel with a die grinder to get all the rough surface off of most of the chrome, and then mask it off and then paint the edges black for a bit of contrast. But I will be keeping some highlights chrome for it to sort of stand out a bit. Same thing for the sail panels. I intend to keep the chrome effect on the top ridges here, but make this all black in here. Bit of contrast, make the chrome pop a bit more. And the center garnish here, same thing, except I think I might use a wrinkle paint for this, a bit like I used on the valve cover. But I'll stick to just satin black for the sail panels. I'll also use the satin black for the badge, fill in the lettering white, keep the top surfaces all polished. Hopefully it makes for a more striking appearance and a bit more aesthetically pleasing. So in the same fashion as I did with the wheels in a previous episode, I'm just going to coat the entire piece with paint, and then I'm going to use some wax and grease remover or thinners to take off the paint where I want the chrome to show through. And then in the case of the wrinkle paint, I'll need to bake those parts to have the wrinkle effect happen. The sail panels I'll just coat with some satin black, wipe off the ridges, call them done. I think because I'm going to do the badge in the contrasting black, just the satin black versus the wrinkle, I've got to take the badge off, a couple of 10mm nuts on the back, undo those, remove the badge, and paint them separately. My mistake, they're actually 8mm. All right. Okay, so those parts have had a couple of coats each. It's still a bit wet. And while it's still drying, I'm going to get the thinners and start cleaning up the chrome edges I want to save. So that's the badge done. I've just got to fill in the LT letters with white as it was before to help it stand out. Well, all the paint's cured on those parts, but I can't really avoid it anymore. I need to get onto sanding this. I won't be showing too much of it because it's pretty much this 37,982 times. There is the addition of this lightly sprayed on black paint. I'm using it as a guide coat so I know when I've sanded down far enough when this is gone.
One eternity later.
Well, that was hours of sanding, which I didn't bore you with. So now I guess I'm ready to paint. No. Now I need to sand it all over again with 800 grit, wet sanded, to remove the scratches I put in it. It never ends. So hopefully this won't take as long. I just need to sand it enough to remove the scratches from the first round of sanding. We'll see how it goes. Sanding sponge for the curves. Because I don't have the paint just yet, I've got to wait for this to dry, then wrap it in plastic so it doesn't get contaminated, and repeat that process for the other panels and the rest of the body. Well, I'm not going to keep boring you with that too much, but you get the idea. So let's repeat that over all of this. I'm going to take the hanging panels off, sand them separate, and then do the doors, roof, and other body pieces as one. You're actually getting close to paint. This isn't taking as long as I thought, so wet sanding is quite quick in comparison to trying to knock this down and get it flat. It's ideal conditions for wet sanding. Just making sure that it's wet. So I went ahead and finished sanding the whole car, and now I've covered it in plastic so the primer doesn't get contaminated before I can lay down paint. But I can't paint it yet because there's been flooding up here. All the roads are cut off, freight has stopped. I'm still waiting for paint supplies, so it won't be getting painted in this episode. I'm sorry. I have to figure out a couple of little jobs to fill my time while I'm waiting. So I think I might move on to refurbing some lens housings and the tail light lenses. And then I'm kind of stuck really. So anyway, it is what it is. We'll just move on to the next thing we can do. So one little job I can do is, these are the number plate lights. These would have originally been zinc. There's a bit of corrosion on them. Just pull them all apart, clean off all this rust, and then probably paint the housings black and reassemble. And that won't take too long, but it's another job we can check off the list. So it's just a matter of undoing these two screws, pulling the housing apart, separate piece, lens with a seal, take that away and get that cleaned up. Give this a good clean up, get all the corrosion off this, probably paint this black and leave that as zinc. Small wire brush, let's get all the dirt and filth off, give it a wipe down after. I don't really see the need to paint these because they're just dirty, not corroded, whereas because this piece is corroding, probably better for me to get some paint on it and protect it from further corrosion. So I just went away and cleaned up these lenses, and the really cool thing about these is they're actually glass. You won't find that on cars these days. So while I'm waiting for the paint to dry on the number plate light housings, I'm going to try and revive the tail light lenses. Now, these are quite faded from many years in the sun. So what I'm going to try and do is sand with some wet and dry paper at about 800 grit, move up to about 1500, and then polish them. They may not come out perfect, but they should be better than what they are now. Now the water I am getting off is quite yellow, which tells me that oxidized plastic is, well, it's definitely coming off. Okay, so they're all sanded and dried. Just going to use the polisher, some Maguire's Scratch X to try and bring them up. Paint's dry on the number plate lights and reassembled, so they're done. Alright, now I've got to do the whole lot. Well, unfortunately, the passenger side's known for the amber lens to stay opaque. Maybe it's something to do with the extra heat from the exhaust, I'm not sure why, but it is better than was, so carry on with the other side.
Later.
And speaking of exhausts, a few weeks ago, the extractors I ordered, I can't remember how long ago, finally showed up, and I haven't opened the box yet, and hopefully they actually fit the car. I guess we're about to find out. Protected. I'm not going to be able to fit them to the car right now, but I do have an exhaust manifold gasket, which I'm going to hold on here to see if it all lines up. Well, I think we're in luck. The seller didn't lie. These will fit the 2T engine in the Celica. So now we have some tubular headers extractors. Another little job I can take care of is this interior sail panel. It sits about here on the passenger side. This one's off a later model. Has a protrusion here that covers the fuel filler neck because it's normally mounted on the pillar. This being a flat light, having the tank mounted underneath, this panel should be flat. Finding a flat one of these, impossible. So what I'm going to do is, it didn't bother me that this is damaged because I'm going to cut this off and then fiberglass over here, make it flat, paint it black. Perfect. So I'm just going to cut most of this off with the angle grinder, and then use a Dremel with a die grinder bit to smooth this out. So that's all ground down. I've now got tape covering up the space that I need to fill with the fiberglass. I'm going to use this thin bit of timber and a couple of clamps, try and square this up and make this straight because it's old and wavy. The tape's just in place there. Stop the fiberglass sagging while the resin cures. Then I'll take that all off and then resin and fiberglass from the other side to bring it up level, or maybe even a little bit proud. So I've got something to work with to sand back, get it back smooth, paint this. Won't even know that I did that. Yes, you will. No one's going to really see it. It's tucked right back. So that's clamped in place. I've cut out a couple of pieces of fiberglass mat. Now I need to mix up the resin according to the instructions-ish. Use the brush, apply it onto the plastic of the panel. Dab the resin onto the mat. Another piece on. Man, I'm going to be itchy later. Now to get rid of all of this stuff so I don't get mega itchy. Too late. Alright, so I guess what I'm going to do is leave that resin to cure and then flip it over, put some more resin and fiberglass on the other side, work that panel down and paint it. But for today, I think that can be the end of this episode. Hopefully the flood waters recede, can actually get some paint delivered, and in the next episode start getting some colour onto this thing. Until then, thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.